Hey church family, I just wanted to give you a Saturday update. Hope you're enjoying your Saturday with your family and enjoying some downtime, maybe getting some stuff done. But it's been a while since we've had a conversation about just kind of where we're headed. I know we've given some updates from the elders. Try to do it at least every couple of weeks, kind of give you an idea of what we're sensing from the Lord, what we're kind of seeing as we continue this journey through COVID-19. I'm sure by now most of you realize that COVID-19 is serious, and even for those who maybe initially were not so concerned about it, you realize it is a deadly disease, and there are people who are continuing to die. Even this week, within our church association, we had an associate pastor who contracted COVID a few weeks back, and from complications in COVID got pneumonia and actually passed away this week. And so as an association of pastors, it's been really a challenging week for us in the loss of our friend, who we know is with Jesus and we know he's better off now, but very hard on his family. He was in his late 50s, and so young guy and no longer with us in this life, in this physical body. So we are aware that we can't make decisions based on fear. We trust God's sovereignty. We trust that God will lead us ahead. And so I don't tell you that story even just to try to say we want to be fear-based in our response or even in our approach to how we proceed with gathering. But it is a reality, and we want to continue to be wise. And as we've mentioned before, we want to continue to find ways to gather with other believers while we can't be all together in one space doing what we typically would do, especially what we were doing before we went through this process. And so let me reiterate the point that we've been making, which is we want every one of us to be in community, whether that community is currently virtual through online means, through Zoom calls or whatever things. And I'm just going to be blunt. I don't like it. I don't prefer it. I'm kind of annoyed by it to some degree, maybe to a great degree. But the reality is that it is a way to connect. And I know for many people who've felt isolated in recent days, just having connection, interaction, relationship, even if it's over a computer, is really important, is really significant, is really helpful for us just to maintain community connection through this time. So encourage you to do that. We've also said we want you to be involved and invested in smaller groups, and it is allowable as long as we're being wise, as long as we're not hanging out with people who've either been exposed to someone who has COVID or maybe is just feeling some symptoms. Let's be wise. Let's be protective of others around us, but at the same time, we need to get together. And even when we get together, I know that there's been some small groups meeting up. They spread out, kind of social distance, wear masks if necessary. But in all that, we need community. And I know mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, it's really important that we engage one another and not get isolated. So I want to encourage you in that. As for our approach, we, like many others, have been tracking COVID and the stages that it's going through in terms of hospitalizations and deaths. And I'm sure that you have, if you've been paying attention, noticed some of these numbers. And while it sometimes can be hard to fully discern all the numbers, here's what we do know. We do know that COVID is, the curve is starting to come back down, especially what we've seen through the Travis County, Austin area, these even in Hays County, we're starting to see the curve kind of come back down, and the only issue is that it's still higher than it should be. And so what we're watching and waiting for, if you understand or know the stages, is we're waiting to get back to stage 2. We're actually going to put a link in the comments below of this video, and just would say we want to see that number back in the stage 2 range, and then give ourselves a little bit of leeway to get back into a gathering mode of some sort, whatever that might be, as we continue to pray and go forward. We are planning to have a gathering of sorts. This is our open-handed plan before the Lord, again based on, are we tracking towards stage 2, and are we seeing some regression from the spike that we saw over the last 6 weeks or so. And so we are planning to meet the Sunday following Labor Day. So that'll be the second Sunday of September. And we are anticipating having some type of gathering that day, as long as we feel like that's a good time period based on all the other things that I mentioned. And I want to just tell you that we're prayerful that that will happen. We want to continue to encourage you, as we have not been able to be at the building all together in a worship gathering space. And last Sunday, just to be completely honest, and I was really emotional about it. I really was missing it. I was feeling some of the heaviest I've felt in a while, about just longing to be in the same space with others, singing, praying, and even just hearing the word, being together. And the reality is that doesn't define my entire walk with Jesus. That can't. In fact, it shouldn't. That would be silly to take 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week, whatever it might be, is in terms of that space, and saying, well, yeah, my whole walk with the Lord, my whole relationship with God is based on that. That's not the case. But it is significant, and for many of us, we miss it, we long for it, and I'm right there with you. And so I feel some of that, but we also want to continue to be patient and wise and just wait on the Lord's timing. Another thing that I would encourage you with as we think about this, we haven't really talked a lot about money. We haven't talked about the finances, giving for Point. We've continued to see God provide for what we've needed. Our giving, just to be blunt, again, our giving has gone down over the last couple months here, and so we've had some regression in terms of our overall giving numbers. Sandra still tracks all of that for us, and most of that money, those resources are coming in from you who are faithfully giving through our online means. We want you to understand that if you can't give in this season, if you are, if you're in a really pressed place financially, we understand. And remember, giving is not about compulsion or feeling manipulated or strong-armed to giving. Giving is something we do gladly and willingly and obediently to God's instruction. And so we can give, and we can give in a lot of forms too. We give not just to Point, but to other needs and to other churches. We do believe that the local church is the best, one of the best ways, primary ways that we give, that then those resources can be distributed for ministry, for kingdom work. And so I encourage you in this season, really think about, where's your heart with money and where's your heart with giving? And we want to say thank you for those who have faithfully continued to give. Our primary expense right now, just to be honest with you, is staffing. And staffing is kind of interesting because our staff can't function like it normally does. That said, we're doing other things with our time and with our energy. And we're also doing some rebudgeting and some rethinking about how we're going to spend resources and what is available to spend, because we want to be wise in that. And so we're even looking at some budget costs cuts, which we have all summer. I mean, we basically, from the spring on, have changed some of our funding for programs, primarily because, look, we just don't need the same kind of resources when we're not gathering regularly, but we are using those resources for other things. We're still supporting church plants. We're still doing ministry initiatives in different ways, and there's still tools and resources that we use, and our facility is still there, and there are some basic costs that it takes to keep the facility up. And I want to especially say thank you. I won't call by name because God knows who they are, but there has been a team of people, a small group of people, put it that way, who have gone up to the building and just cleaned up flower beds, cleaned up around the space, cleaned up, and it's really been an encouragement to see those people get involved. And again, I don't want to cause them to lose their reward in heaven, but God knows who they are, and I know that they're the kind of people that don't want recognition anyway. But I'm so thankful that they've helped us kind of keep the space up there physically looking good outside. It's in those kind of things. One of the things that we are going to continue to do over the next few weeks is finish out our teaching series as through the story of God, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. I've mentioned it probably, 3 or 4 different times, that one of the things that I've been encouraged by is just the retelling of this significant narrative of God redeeming humanity, God's work in the and specifically with my own kids, we're working through the resource that's designed for them, and it's been so good to tell these stories to my kids. And what's great is all ages. You know, we've got our youngest who's 6, and then our oldest who's 17. And so we've been able to see all of them engage at different levels at their ages, and I'm really thankful for that. And so encourage you, let's finish that well. And this is a great way for you to be thinking about who in my life needs to know these stories, needs to know this story of God, and could be shaped by it, could be encouraged by it, could be discipled in understanding who God is and what He's done through it. And then when we wrap that up, I'm excited to tell you that we're going to be teaching through this fall. We're going to teach through 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. And so we're teaching through both of these little letters that Paul wrote to the church at Thessalonica. And I'm really personally ready to dig into that. I've enjoyed the broad stories. It's been great to have different voices telling some of the story. But in the coming weeks, we're going to actually zoom in to a particular book and two letters, epistles, that specifically will address all of us on some things I think that are very timely, very appropriate to where we are in this current day, this current reality. Both the political climate, the issue with this pandemic, and even some of the racial injustice, or just signs that the world's not okay, and the division and brokenness in the world. And so those are some of the things that I'm excited to tell you about today. I wanted to kind of communicate to you on behalf of the elders. We will meet again as God allows, and we're trusting God's timing on that. Please continue to faithfully give to support the work of the ministry. We're working on our end to try to reduce expenses and costs to use what God gives us and trust His provision on that. And then we look forward to teaching. As we finish up this teaching on the story of God, we'll then wrap up and then go into 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, again, as God allows. If you don't have a small group of people that you're meeting with, a smaller, we call them DNA, discipleship, nurture, accountability group. If you don't have a smaller group within the body that's really encouraging you, holding you accountable, building you up, teaching you, and you're teaching them, they're sharpening of one another, please let me know. Please reach out. You can even reach out to connect@pointaustin.org. You can message me personally. You can message Aaron personally, or one of us on our team, even JT, and we would gladly help you get connected to a group somehow, because this is really key to us all continuing to grow in this weird, unusual time. Okay, so we love you, church family. We are so grateful for each one of you, and we look forward to talking to you in person again in the coming days. Keep praying. Keep praying, keep praying. God's will be done. Keep praying. God, use me, show me how to be used by you, join you in your work, what you're doing during this season. And let's be faithful to obey whatever He might say to us. All right? Take care. Have a blessed rest of your Saturday, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.